Assalamu alaikum, the Truce of Hudeybiah and story of Hadhrat Abu Jandal and Hadhrat Abu Basir, Radhiyallaho anhuma. In the 6th year of Hijrah, the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, along with his companions, left for Mecca to perform Umrah. The Quraysh heard of the news and decided to resist his entry into Mecca even as a pilgrim, so he had to encamp at Hudeybiah. The devoted Sahabah, 400 in number, were however determined to enter, even if it involved an open fight. But the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, viewed the matter differently, and in spite of the Sahabah's eagerness to fight, entered into a treaty with the Quraysh, accepting their conditions in full. This one-sided and seemingly ungraceful truce was a very bitter pill for the Sahabah to swallow, but their devotion to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not allow them to demur, and even the most valiant man like Hadhrat Umar Radhiyallaho anhuma could not but submit to his decision. According to one of the articles of the treaty, converts to Islam during the period of the truce were to be returned, but not so the deserters from Muslims to Quraysh. Hadhrat Abu Jandal Radhiyallaho anhuma, a Muslim in Mecca, was suffering great persecution at the hands of Quraysh. They kept him constantly in chains. On hearing about the arrival of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Hudeybiah, he escaped somehow and managed to reach the Muslim camp at a time when the truce was about to be signed. His father, Suhail, till then a non-Muslim, was the envoy of Quraysh in the negotiations for the truce. He smote Hadhrat Abu Jandal Radhiyallaho anhuma on his face and insisted on taking him back to Mecca. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam represented that, since the truce had not till then been written, its application in Abu Jandal's case was premature. Suhail, however, would not listen to any argument and was not inclined to leave his son with the Muslims even at the personal request of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and would have forgone the truce. Even Abu Jandal radiyallahu anhu, counting his hardships, remonstrated at the top of his voice, but much to the grief of the Sahaba, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam agreed to his return. He, however, joined patience on him, saying, "Do not be distressed, Hadhrat Abu Jandal Radhiyallaho anhuma. Allah will shortly open a way for you." After the truce was signed and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had returned to Medina, another Meccan Muslim, Hadhrat Abu Basir Radhiyallahu anhu, escaped to Medina and besought the Prophet's sallallahu alaihi wasallam protection. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam refused to accept his imploration and, in deference to the truce condition, handed him over to the two persons who had been deputed by the Quraysh to claim him. He, however, advised him, as he had advised Hadhrat Abu Jandal radiyallahu anhu, to be patient and to hope for the help of Allah. When Hadhrat Abu Basir radiyallahu anhu and his escort were on their way back to Mecca, Hadhrat Abu Basir radiyallahu anhu said to one of them, "Friend, your sword is extremely fine." The man was flattered and took it out from the sheath and said, "Yes, it is really very fine, and I have tried it on so many persons. You can have a look at it." Most foolishly, he made over the sword to Abu Basir Radhiyallaho anhu, who immediately tried it on its owner and killed him. The other man took to his heels and reached Medina to report to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the meantime, Abu Basir Radhiyallahu anhu also arrived. He said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Prophet of Allah, you once returned me and absolved yourself of the truce obligations. I had no obligations to fulfill, and I managed my escape from them by this trick, as I was afraid of their forcing me to forsake my faith." Sallallahu alaihi wasallam remarked, "You are a warmonger. I wish you could be helped." Hadhrat Abu Basir radiyallahu anhu came to understand from this that he would be returned to Quraysh again when they demanded him. He therefore left Medina and fled to a place in the desert on the seashore. Abu Jandal radiyallahu anhu also managed his escape and joined him there. More Muslims of Mecca followed, and in a few days, quite a small group of such fugitives gathered in the wilderness. They had to undergo untold suffering in the desert, where there was neither habitation nor vegetation. They, however, being bound by no treaty, proved a great nuisance for the Quraysh by dealing blow after blow on their caravans passing that way. This compelled the Quraysh to approach the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and beseech him to intervene and call the fugitives to Medina so that they might be bound by the terms of the treaty like other Muslims, and the caravans might pass in safety. It is said that Hadhrat Abu Basir radiyallahu anhu was on his deathbed when the letter sent by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, permitting his return to Medina, reached him. He died while holding the Prophet's sallallahu alaihi wasallam letter in his hand. No power on the earth can make a person forsake his faith, provided it is a true faith. Moreover, Allah has given an assurance to help those who are genuine Muslims. Hadith Fazail-i-Amal.